everybody. Welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast. I am your host, Steve Levy, former Suffolk County executive, former New York State assemblyman. I'm presently serving as the executive director of the fiscally conservative think tank Center for Cost-Effective Government. You might see some of my writings as a Newsmax insider and some of my publications in the Washington Times, Washington Examiner. And each week we're here live 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock at the America First Warehouse on Long Island. And if you folks have never been here to this warehouse before, you've got to come here. It is a mecca for patriots. And we have guests here ranging from Bill O'Reilly to Greg Kelly, Miranda Devine, Kash Patel, great book signings and events and amazing podcasts. And we thank Joe the Box, who's our proprietor, who makes it all happen. Normally, you'll see me here with a co-host, David Zare from Real America's Voice. He's at the White House today. So I'm going to be having a researcher at our Center for Cost-Effective Government, John Rainey, coming in the next segment. We're going to talk about things from Iran to New York State to Mandani and New York City. But I've got a treat for you right now, folks, for the next two segments, because if you ask people in the know in the New York area, who is the guy, the point guy in the whole state when it comes to getting facts, figures, and where things stand with taxes, regulations, and economic conditions in New York, it's this man, our guest, Ken Girardin, a fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Ken, we're honored to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.
So, where do we start? The state of New York is in the throes of their budget. It's supposed to be settled by April 1. It's not. It's late. They're still battling over a few issues. But one thing I'd like to start off with, Ken, is for you to paint the picture here. My think tank just wrote an op-ed about Tier 6 and what that means. It comes a lot from the basic facts that you've laid out to the people of New York. And what I found in the studies that we've done, my think tank did a study on the need for a spending cap in New York State. And we found that NerdWallet and a few of these other entities, they did a comparison. They said, there's a similarity between the list of the highest tax states in the nation and the states with the strongest municipal unions, and they crisscross. New York, California, Illinois, New Jersey, you name it. Same states in both columns. Highest taxes, strongest municipal unions. You've been fighting this fight for the longest time, and here we are, and we see the unions trying to pull a fast one at the dark of night, trying to reverse reforms in Tier 6. Can you explain to our audience what that's all about and what the enormous impact it's going to have on taxpayers in New York?
Let's start with explaining pensions for your listeners, because only 14% of people who work in the private sector have access to a defined benefit pension. That is a future guaranteed payment based on your years of work and how much you made while you were working. That's a different retirement plan from what most folks have in the private sector. That's a 401k defined contribution plan. That's where you and your employer put money into an account while you're working, and then you live off that money.
And it goes up and down with the market.
And yes, there's a 401k goes up and down with the market. A defined benefit pension in New York, however, is one that's sponsored by a public employer, is guareteed by the state constitution, which means it can only go up, it can never go down.
So if the market goes down, taxpayers foot the bill to refill the pension.
Correct. And we saw a lot of that. People may remember how property taxes in New York, school taxes in particular, jumped about 50% in the years after the 2001 stock market crash. And that was something that translated into much higher pension contribution costs, which put an enormous squeeze on local governments, caused a lot of local governments to have to increase property taxes. The town of Hamburg, outside Buffalo, is one of them. And this is a notable case because town councilwoman Kathy Hochul was involved with dealing with the fact that the town's pension costs were exploding, and a portion of those increased costs had to be passed on to taxpayers in the form of property tax hikes. So this is something that New York taxpayers have experience with, even if they're not familiar with the mechanics. And that's where I'm trying to step in and help them understand just why these things are happening and why they should care about them.
And if I could expand upon that, to give the viewers out there an understanding of how impactful these pensions are, I believe there was a recent tax increase in Illinois, which is probably the worst funded pension system in the nation. Even New York looks good by comparison. But it was determined that 90% of that tax increase went just for dealing with satisfying the pension needs in Illinois. And here we are in New York, where the state is so big as far as the state workforce. And we did an analysis in our Center for Cost-Effective Government, which was based after the Manhattan Institute and Empire Center, where they did the pension time bomb, great study years ago. We found that if we just eliminated overtime from being factored into pensions, which artificially bumps up the pensions, we'd save $50 billion over the next 20 years. But what you're finding is that there's a sneaky fast end going on in New York right now, where the attempts to limit that overtime into the pensions, they're going to take it away and open it up again, where there's less contribution from the new workers and they can retire earlier, and there's less caps on overtime. Can you expound on that and let us know, most importantly, what is the fiscal impact of that going to be on New Yorkers?
Folks may have heard the slogan "Fix Tier 6." You're hearing it a lot, particularly on Long Island. And it's a push by the public employee unions to dial back pension reforms that were enacted in 2009 and 2012. Like I said before, you had pension costs explode, property taxes really ran away as a result. Part of the way those were brought under control was by reducing the pension benefits and changing the pension rules for future employees. Like I said, you can't cut pensions once somebody has joined the pension system, but you can reform them for future employees. So that's what the state did amidst the Great Recession. Governor Patterson did it first with Tier 5, and then Governor Cuomo did it for Tier 6 in 2012. And what the go on.
But, that's a long time ago. It seems like just yesterday, but it's a long time. So now I understand that about 50% or maybe more of the present employees are in this Tier 5 or Tier 6. So now you're talking about a tremendous impact if you're now telling, these tens of thousands of employees, hey, you don't have to give as much into your pension system. You can retire at 55. You can, get the overtime back in to inflate your pension. Am I right?
Yes, those are the things that the unions are pressing Albany to do. They want to allow public employees to retire at age 55 in some circumstances. They want to cut the employee contributions from the maximum right now of 6% down to 3%, and they want to allow them to stop paying anything in after 10 years on the job. And then finally, they want to bring back unlimited pension spiking. And as you know, this is something, pension spiking in particular is a problem that manifests itself all over the state in different ways. You see with, particularly with the way police contracts get structured, there's an incentive for folks to use to get as much overtime as possible in their final 3 years on the job, so that, because that's the basis for how their pensions get calculated. You see it in the transit system, where folks will actually push to negotiate contracts that give the most expensive employees first dibs on overtime.
Right.
And that is motivated because of these defined benefit pensions. So there's all sorts of perverse incentives from doing retirements this ways. There are much better ways to finance public employee retirements than what New York does now.
Well, when I tell people that a police officer with a $200,000 base salary can work $150,000 in overtime in his last year and multiply that by 3, and that the base of their retirement is now over $300,000, and their pensions are $150,000 plus. They say, you're lying. That can't be true. But it is true. And that's how it's happening. And there was an attempt to try to change this with Tier 6, but now there's a movement afoot to go back to what it was. What's your prognosis in a minute and a half in this segment? You think it's going to pass?
Fixed Tier 6 boils down to slamming New Yorkers with over $100 billion.
Wow. $100 billion with a B.
Over $100 billion. I'm being conservative. There. Over $100 billion. I heard some laughter in the control room. Over $100 billion in pension liabilities. That's Dr. Evil money. And the union's approach has been essentially to do it in small little chunks. So they they increased future liabilities by about roughly $4 billion about 2 years ago. They are trying to do it again in another bigger chunk, but their long-term goal is to do away with the pension reforms that were not just beneficial but necessary.
And so taxpayers better hold on to their wallets, because the impact this is going to have on their property taxes is going to be unbelievable. We have an exodus of people already. You're really going to see the moving vans coming to New York at a record pace. Ken Jordan, stay with us. We're bringing you back for one more segment. Folks, you are in the catbird seat here listening to the point man on taxation in New York State. We're going to have one more segment when we come back in 3 minutes on the right side. We'll see you then.
Most people think they have options when searching for the best deals when they travel. But here's the shocking truth. 100% of the major travel agencies are owned by just 2 entities, Expedia and Booking Holdings. They claim to offer the lowest rates, but due to the hotel rate parity agreement, they all have the same pricing, limiting genuine competition. When you book through these sites, you act as your own travel agent, but the profits are going to organizations that don't support our patriot values. We cannot allow that to continue. So, we decided to make travel great again by starting a US-based travel membership platform, mypatriottravel.com. We are patriots helping patriots. Together, we can disrupt the travel industry by not spending our hard-earned dollars supporting the radical left. For just $29.99 per month, you gain access to true wholesale rates on travel, saving you on average 35% and up to 65%. Book as often as you like, with no limits. Keep your hard-earned dollars in your pocket and spend them on things you need and want to support. Go to mypatriottravel.com/TAFW and grab your membership today. mypatriottravel.com/TAFW. Making travel great again.
Are you a true American? Then it's time to get connected. Download the America First Media and Television app and stay up to date with real news, bold voices, and live events from the America First Warehouse. From national broadcasts and exclusive shows to comedy nights, concerts, and special events. It's all right at your fingertips. No filters, no spin, just America First. Download the America First Media and Television app today and be part of the movement.
I'm sure you guys remember the platinum single, Justice for All, with Donald Trump and the J6 Prison Choir. We'll get ready for round 2. We're coming out with Anthem of the Free with High Res and the J6 Prison Choir. It's coming out now. It's pre-sale until December 19th when it drops. Get yours on all platforms, Google Play, Apple iTunes. Get it. It's going to be hot.
Justice for all, our voices ring. The anthem of the free.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, welcome back on the Right Side podcast with Steve Levy. We are here every Wednesday live, 2 to 3 p.m. at the America First Warehouse. Please go on the website at the America First Warehouse and check out this podcast and so many others and all the upcoming events we have. We have to thank Joe the Box for making this all possible. David Zare is my usual co-host. He's reporter for the Real America's Voice is down at covering the White House today. Very busy week. Since the last segment, I've been joined by our researcher at the Center for Cost-Effective Government, of which I am the executive director, John Rainey. John, thanks for being back. You've been a guest many times before.
Yes, and it's always a pleasure to be back.
and when you were working for me through the Center, I've asked you to prepare white papers.
Yep.
And you would always say your go-to place to look first was, what are they doing over there at the Manhattan Institute?
Yep.
And it's our guest who was here at our last segment. He's still with us today for the next segment, Ken Girardin, who is the man when it comes to facts and figures and everything economic in New York State. So one more segment with you. Thanks so much for being with us, Ken. All right. We ended up last segment talking about the unions and the impact they have. Let's talk about even the Republicans. A lot of people would automatically think, oh, this is a Democratic scheme. But, when I was in government, I found that the Republicans were often just as bad. It was a re-election society, and they were all taking money from the unions, and they were all just as captive to the unions. Is that what you're seeing as the Tier 6 reform plays out this go-around? Are they all as non-sensitive to the taxpayers as it seems they are?
Unfortunately, in this case, really, the exception proves the rule. I'm trying to think of New York State lawmakers who have said, no, we shouldn't retroactively increase government pensions and drive up property taxes on Long Island. And the only person to have said that publicly so far is Assemblyman Mike Fitzpatrick from Smithtown.
Yeah, whenever I've had to do something where our center would push for reforms and we wanted someone to sponsor the bill, we'd go straight to Michael Fitzpatrick because we know he would do it. He put in the bill for the defined contribution pension rather than the defined benefit. It doesn't go anywhere, but he's trying, getting rid of the Triborough Amendment. He's the one guy trying. But isn't that a shame? I mean, John,
No.
you were a grad student there for a while. You graduated Public Policy Institute in Stony Brook. Does it shock you that the Republicans in New York State are sometimes as in the tank with the unions as are the Democrats?
I mean, it doesn't shock me that, politicians, their main priority is votes, It's sort of an intractable problem because they're like, well, here's a group of people who will guarantee a vote for me, and I'm only going to be in office for so many years. It's like a short-term gain kind of thing. And you have to be kind of really dedicated to the long-term vision after you leave office to risk your electoral career and be like, oh, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not going to, assuage them and take all their votes, because it's a voting block more than anything else.
And it's a re-election society.
Yeah.
I saw, Ken, a quote from Alexis Week, a Republican senator from Long Island who is retiring. She said something like, oh, it's not going to bankrupt the state, so what? Never mentioning that it's $100 billion in cost.
Yeah.
And, it's just remarkable to me that there are just blinders on like this. Your prognosis, this thing's probably going to fly through, isn't it?
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Really?
You're talking about something that is going to cost over the long term $20,000 per New York family. And that is something where the governor
Could you
has
repeat that?
done a pretty it works out to $20,000 per family.
Wow.
In added pension costs. That's the way you get to that's the way you bring back the early retirement. That's the way you bring back the pension spiking. That's the way you let these public employees stop contributing towards their pensions. And nobody is trying to take anything away from them. I want to be abundantly clear about this. This is about people having signed up to work under existing statutory pension tiers. That is to say, they are the pension tiers that were created by the people's elected representatives. This is
And
not
they knew the
arbitrary
deal.
thing.
the employees coming in knew the deal. This is what we do. This is what I have to pay into the system. So it's not like they're hoodwinked or it's retroactively being applied. All those who were in prior, they keep what they had, which is a mess. But at least for the new guys, this is what it's going to be. But now they're saying, well, the new guys, they should have what the old guys had.
I mean, if you want the most ironic part about this, it's that many of the people who are now protesting about Tier 6 being inadequate only got hired because the pension reforms gave local budgets and state agencies the flexibility and the resources that they needed to go hire these people. Yeah. So it's really a sight to behold.
Yeah.
Wow.
That sort of thing comes up in my research for Common Good all the time. Philip Howard's think tank, it's like these big, oftentimes like the bulk of the cost is after they stop working. It's this bomb that goes off after they retire. And to begin with, the tier system is already, it's the best solution we have at the moment, but already it's, kind of messy and inefficient to begin with. And they want to undo even the slightest Band-Aids we can put on this, like, huge problem, which is, Tier 6.
The analogy I use is we're on a train going off a cliff. And the tiers at least slowed the train down. It didn't reverse the train. It just is slowing them down, but we're still going off the cliff. But now this is going to put the train on steroids, ready to go off that cliff. Hey, Ken, 5 minutes left here in the segment while we still have you. What other bills? You're king for a day. You're governor for a day. Better to be king because you wouldn't need the legislature. What are the type of reforms that you'd want to see to make this state more competitive and affordable? How's that for an open question? What do you favor? Give me two or three.
Only 5 minutes. This is going to sound a little wonky, but I think if the state budget if the process were changed so that the fiscal year began July 1st instead of April 1st.
As most places are, schools and other states.
It would really smooth the process. New York, because of basically a historical accident during World War II, is the only state that starts its fiscal year April 1st. 46 other states start July 1st. Mm-hmm. If you were to move the fiscal year, you could draw clearer lines between what's the budget and what is going to be policy. New York has this fundamental problem where state lawmakers just are not doing their jobs adequately. They are not monitoring state agencies the way they should be. They are not engaged in the sort of robust process of crafting legislation. They don't do the sorts of collaborative things that the committee processes are supposed to facilitate. And you could get a lot of that back, hopefully, if you moved the state fiscal year so that there was a much clearer expectation that people were going to spend January, February, March working on legislation and not in this weird hurry up and wait process that New York has right now for its budget.
And you'd have better projections as to revenue and expenses as what might be coming from the federal government. And you wouldn't have the anomaly where school districts that are facing June 30th ends of the fiscal year are wondering, that they're out of sync with the state, not knowing how much they're going to get to put into their budget for the upcoming year. Very, very peculiar and with the anomaly, it seems, here in the United States on this.
Yep. So, and fitting it starts on April Fool's Day.
That is true. Hey, I raised this, in a studio earlier. Is there anything you guys can do at the Manhattan Institute there, Ken, to take a look at what I'm trying to do and Philip Howard at Common Good, where we're trying to bring litigation to say something's wrong with this municipal union system. And Franklin Roosevelt and even George Meany, the big union guy, said, you can't have elected officials taking money from unions and then negotiating their contract. Private sector, it's one thing. Public sector, you're negotiating against yourself. Has there ever been a look-see at the Manhattan Institute or Empire Center to say, hey, maybe we should go after this? Maybe there's some constitutional infirmities here. What's your thoughts? Is that something that has been looked at, could be looked at? Not that you don't have a lot on your plate.
I would probably zoom us out for a second first and just talk about the huge gap in public awareness between how things work and what the public knows about So, for instance, we just talked about every family in New York getting slammed with another $20,000 in pension debt. That's something that is completely off the radar. The extent to which union contracts control everything from the length of the school day to the hours at your town park down to how often subways can run. That's something
Minimum
that
class size. That's the new one, right?
well, that was statutory. That's
Right,
something
to the
it does.
city, right.
Those do get negotiated though sometimes in union contracts, but people don't understand that there's this separate process, this other policymaking process happening through union contracts under New York's unique Taylor law. And the more people can interrogate just how this world works, it really is kind of like the Upside Down on Netflix. It's something that people don't know is there, and it would there's some pretty scary stuff that comes out of it.
Yeah, well, John, that's what Philip Howard is saying, that
Yeah.
the unions really hamper the discretionary abilities of the elected official.
Yeah, people who are elected to govern are invested with the power and authority to govern, and they're not able to govern. There's all these other things, all these people putting their hands in the pie, throwing wrenches in the system to benefit themselves, and it's making things inefficient for everybody and decreasing the quality of the system as a whole.
Yeah, well, Ken, with the 30 seconds left, where do our listeners find you? I read your stuff. You're in the New York Post just about every other day. Where do they see your writings? Where do they get your facts and figures? How can they help you with the amazing mission that you're on to protect them as taxpayers?
The Manhattan Institute does lots of amazing things. You can find my colleagues' work at manhattan.institute. I'm on the X, formerly Twitter, under Policy Engineer.
Well, we have to thank you. You really are a godsend as the taxpayer watchdog here in New York. I'm proud to work with you, and hope we'll be able to do a lot more in the future together, Ken.
Likewise.
Thank you. Okay, folks, we'll be back in 3 minutes on the right side.
Have you noticed your money just doesn't stretch like it used to? Your paycheck feels lighter, and your savings aren't growing. The culprits? Inflation and increased money supply. They've both been quietly eating away at your purchasing power for years. Today, the dollar's value has dropped significantly. You feel it every time you spend money on goods and services. Back in 1965, $1 or an ounce of silver could buy you a gallon of milk. Fast forward to today. That same dollar barely buys a couple of coffee creamers, while an ounce of silver would get you 8 gallons of milk. Gold and silver have held their value for centuries. If you had 2,500 ounces of silver back in 1965, you could buy a brand new Ford Mustang. Today, 2,500 ounces of silver would buy you 2 Mustangs. Similarly, in the year 2000, 628 ounces of gold would buy a new $170,000 home. Today, 628 ounces would buy you a $2,500,000 home. The problem? 95% of Americans don't own physical gold or silver. They think it's too complicated and too expensive, but it doesn't have to be. We offer a membership program that allows you to buy gold or silver with as little as $1. You can buy fractional amounts, safely vault them, or have them delivered to your doorstep, and you can liquidate them whenever you want at the highest buyback price in the industry. Ready to protect your wealth and keep your purchasing power? Scan the QR code or go to tafw.soundmoney.com to learn more.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won. It's not about what party. It's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
All right, live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse.
It's me, Joe the Box, and I'm John the Blanket with the America First Podcast.
That's what I'm talking about. The Fred Rubino Podcast coming to you from the America First Warehouse.
Welcome, everybody, to the James Justice Show, tearing these airwaves apart with all the craziness that goes on in the world.
Welcome to the Patriots Podcast. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast here at the America First Warehouse in Long Island, New York.
Shane Jenkins here with another episode of Liberty's Cage. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Red, Right, and True.
We are streaming live on America First Media and Television app.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Downey Jr. podcast. Be free, stay free.
The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey folks, Steve Levy here. Welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast. I'm the former Suffolk County Executive, New York State Assembly member, and the Executive Director of the fiscally conservative think tank, Center for Cost-Effective Government. My normal co-host is David Zaire from Real America's Voice. He's on assignment. So one of the researchers at our Center for Cost-Effective Government is with us as the co-host, John Rainey. Once again, thank you, John.
Yeah, once again, it's good to be here.
Thanks. So we just had Ken Girardin from the Manhattan Institute. What an informative session on what's going on in New York State and why it's so unaffordable to live here.
Yeah.
But now let's segue to what's going on everybody's mind in the world today, and that's what's happening in Iran.
Yeah.
So we wake up this morning and ceasefire, okay? And it's really amazing because if you look at how the conservative media treats this and the liberal media, it's like two different worlds. It's like you could do a college course, John, on what is spin. Because on the conservative networks, you have the Krylon and, the anchors saying Trump made them blink, okay? And then on the liberal stations, you have Taco Trump, who always chickened out again. Not that you can actually say that with a straight face. This is a guy who went into Iran on 2 occasions and into Venezuela. How you can call him Taco, I don't know. But two different worlds. But let's just look at it on its face. Is this ceasefire going to hold up? And is it a good idea? It depends what the terms are, right? What's your guess in 10 days from now? Is there going to be a deal?
I would hope that the ceasefire holds. It's kind of a really chaotic situation because, on Friday, Trump's like, we're going to have to end their civilization. It's going to be a shame, but we're going to have to end the civilization. And then today recently there's a ceasefire. And just today, Iran's like, oh, Israel's violating the ceasefire because they haven't left Lebanon and there's still missiles flying, but there's just less missiles flying. And they say we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz, but it's unclear if they have the naval capacity to actually close it. And it's like, who has this?
They
who
may
has
just
that?
need a drone.
It's just a total chaos,
But then when I looked at the 2 10-point plans, I'm saying, these guys are 180 degrees apart. It's not like there's a 10-point plan that they both have, and they've agreed to 9, and there's only 1 or 2 missing. Really, I mean, Trump's tweet today says it all. I'm glad he had this in here. Hey, Iran must stop its nuclear programs, both for bombs and domestically, and we have to get that uranium powder. Otherwise, they can produce it. Now, Iran is not going to agree to that. They're not going to go. The only way you're going to get that powder is to take it. So I'm 90% sure that in 10 days from now, there will be no deal. The only question is, will we continue to start bombing them, to the point where, they have no power anymore?
I mean, both sides want a ceasefire, I think. Both sides, at least for now, wanted at least a pause to catch their breath. Because, it's sort of a very tricky situation for everybody involved. The Ayatollahs keep on having meetings above ground, and then they keep on exploding. And we keep on towing the line of, are we back in the Middle East? Is all these bad memories from the war on terror? It's like, are we going to take Karg Island? Or are we going to do boots on the ground? And that's political poison, but also wholesale undesirable. So we just keep on bombing them. But is it doing enough? And it's a mess.
My concern, John Rainey, senior researcher at the Center for Cost-Effective Government. My concern is that the president will feel pressure from within his administration, the J.D. Vance's and that wing of his party to say, get out. We've got midterms to come up that are coming up. The market's going down. Oil is up. And, my first thought is, man, if you're going to fight a war and be worried about what the price of oil is going to be and what the markets are going to be tomorrow or the next day, you're going to lose that war. I mean, I can't imagine in World War II that it's right before D-Day, and the naysayers or the media would be saying to FDR, you better not do this. It's really going to cause sacrifice at home. And it's like, you got a war. You got to win the war, you know? and I hope he stays the course and realizes there's only one goal here, and that's to make sure that these crazy lunatics on Iran can't get a bomb, because if they get a bomb, they're going to use it, and they're going to use it on us. That's what victory is, stopping them from getting a bomb. Anything less than that, to my mind, is a defeat.
I mean, part of the tricky situation here is that this whole thing happened, weeks too late. You had a decision that could be made in the administration. Either you go after Venezuela and you take Maduro in the middle of the night, which, that happened. And we had our carrier strike groups in the region, and that went off without a hitch, an overnight operation. Or you capitalize on the protests happening in Iran, and you move the carrier strike groups there, and hopefully you can whip that up into something where they internally overthrow the
that's a very
regime.
Good point.
And then we didn't do that. We took Maduro, and then after the fact moved it, and we tried to whip up the protests, but they're not happening, and it's a mess.
It's an excellent point, and it's something I wrote about a couple of weeks ago, and that is, if you want regime change, you have to create chaos in the streets. And that doesn't mean carpet bombing innocent people, as the Iranians do, and Hezbollah, where they just lob missiles into apartment complexes. But it does mean taking out their bridges, taking out their power plants, taking out their infrastructure. That's how you win wars, And now, by the way, if you created that kind of chaos where the mullahs were in disarray, you create the climate for the people who want to overthrow to get out in the streets and do what they have to do. Even though they don't have guns and they're going to be shot by snipers, you've got to create that chaos to make it happen. But also you keep them on the defensive so they can't be offensive with their drones and knocking off oil tankers. So I think Trump has to go in that direction. And I think he will.
No, I think there's a correct way to handle this, and again, it's very tricky. The argument could be made that, it's a bad outcome for Iran to get a nuclear weapon. I mean, they've been trying for decades, and they, barely even approached getting one. Every time we do, we try to, we blow up whatever nuclear site they have.
Right.
We blow up a mountain, we blow up a facility, and they have to start over from basically scratch. But it's like North Korea has nuclear weapons. Kim Jong-un knows he's never going to use them, because if he does, that's the moment he dies.
That's right.
And if he has enough nuclear weapons,
well, good
it's not
point.
like Russia.
But do these nutcases, these religious fanatics, fear death? I don't think they do, and that's why I think this is so unique, where they say, all right, Kim's got them, and Russia's got them, and China's got them, but they're atheists. They think this is it. These crazy mullahs, they want the end times. I mean, they don't care if they get blown up with us, because they're going to get 69 virgins up in their afterlife, So
if they fire a singular nuclear missile at us, that's something we can intercept. Like mutually assured destruction is large amounts exchanging.
Well, unless it's on a barge that we don't catch. But
I mean, it's not good. They should be prevented from getting nuclear weapons. I think
it's an existential threat. I don't think it's like we should stop them. We have to stop them.
I think both things should be prevented. And Afghanistan-style involvement would, like a boots on the ground, decades of blood would be bad.
Let me ask you this one. All of a sudden, you got the media, liberal media, and the Democrats saying, we're going to impeach Trump. He wants to bomb bridges and power plants. It's a war crime. It's a war crime. When Zelensky blew up a Russian bridge, the New York Times, the libs, they all loved it. Oh, we're fighting back against Russia. And my favorite one, John Neary, Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly, this freaking hypocrite over in Arizona, calls out Trump for talking about destroying bridges and infrastructure. It's a war crime. You, Mark Kelly, you were a fighter pilot in Desert Storm. What did we do in Desert Storm? The first thing we did We took out Saddam's power plants. Come on, man. Give us a break, right?
So, I feel like, calling it a war crime is a bit of a hyperbole. It's an act of, there's war going on.
It's a war.
And, bombing campaigns, they have the benefit of not really risking that much American life.
Again, it's World War II. You're going to say, we really can't bomb those German power plants. What are you talking about? Of course we did. Not only that, there was collateral damage of 600,000 Germans who were killed in the bombing. It was a war. It was an existential threat. You have to win that war or they're going to kill you. Now, let me ask you one more thing. The rhetoric of the president. I wish he would be more.
It's been all over the place.
Yeah, he's all over the place. He's got the courage to say, we're going in there where others were too cowardly to do it. So kudos on that. But you got to level with the people. You can't say 1 minute, we're not going to have ground troops, then we're going to have ground troops. You can't say that it's going to be a 3-week war and then say it's going to take as long as it takes. You can't say our ultimate goal is regime change, but then it's not regime change. Just lay it out. Be consistent.
Hegseth says the regime has already been changed.
Right.
So, what's true?
Because they're backpedaling, because that might be their exit strategy. But I say to President Trump that be Churchillian. Churchill had the guts to stand up to Hitler like you've got the guts to stand up to Iran. But Churchill was honest with his people. He said, this is going to be hard. This is going to require sacrifice. This is going to be deadly. But this is an existential threat. And if we don't stand up now, we're going to rue the day. If the president does that and says there's going to be sacrifice, I'm not going to worry about the markets tomorrow. Even Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan said, stop worrying about the markets. If you're successful, they'll take care of themselves, right? 10 seconds. Wrap it up in 10 seconds.
It's a mess. It's a mess. That's the wrap up. It's a mess.
All right, folks, we're going to talk about a lot more. You're on the right side here at the America First Warehouse. We'll see you in 3 minutes.
You've worked hard and saved, but inflation and increased money supply are eroding your buying power. Protect and grow your wealth with physical gold and silver. Sound Money. With a Sound Money wallet, your wealth stays in your control. Buy fractionally, vault securely, ship directly, and instantly liquidate your gold and silver at the highest buyback price in the industry. Real money, real ownership. Visit tafwsoundmoney.info or scan the QR code and start securing your financial future today.
The America First Ultra MAGA store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA store.
Get ready to move and celebrate freedom like never before. The America First Warehouse proudly presents Freedom in Motion, America 250. Join Lisa for an electrifying dance fitness fundraiser designed to get your heart pumping and your spirit soaring. This dynamic 6-week session is perfect for all fitness levels, whether you're just starting out or ready to level up your routine. Feel the energy of an epic patriotic playlist. Boost your fitness, learn exciting new moves, and relieve stress while having an absolute blast. All for just $100 per person, and it all supports a great cause. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Come dance, get fit, and celebrate America 250 in motion.
Corporate transfer. Fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
America First Warehouse
was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed, because there is nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
Hey folks, Steve Levy here. Welcome back to our last segment of the On the Right Side podcast that comes to you live every Wednesday, 2 to 3 o'clock here at the America First Warehouse. I'll tell you, it's been a fascinating week. And we talked about Iran. We talked about what's going on with the New York State budget. Here's something that's really interesting. You know, talking about Iran, there are actually people, John Rainey, from the Center for Cost-Effective Government, our researcher, who are betting on the outcome of what's going to happen in Iran, or I'll wager $2,000 that this guy is going to be taken out by June 2nd. And it's incredible what you can bet on now. You know, there was a lot of crazy talk when it came to sports, where people were fixing the basketball games. But this is a whole different level where people are betting how long is the ceasefire going to last, who will be taken out. I don't think this should be legal, and there is a big push to make that illegal, because my fear is that you can have policymakers who will fudge policy for the purpose of becoming ultra rich by knowing what the outcome will be in advance. What's your thoughts?
You know, these betting markets, these political and current events betting markets like Kalshi and Polymarket, they're like billions of dollars of bets are going on. And you can bet on anything. You can bet on the weather. You can bet on politics. You can bet on war.
Well, the weather you can't control, so that one I don't care about.
But, you know, for example, for the Iran thing, there's a guy, the top bet, there's like a bet going on, and they trade on shares of like what's going to happen. There's a $20,000 bet on ground troops in Iran. And if that guy's bet happens, like if it resolves, he gets over $1 million as a payout. And what if he's, you know, a congressman?
Exactly.
And like, there's another one. There's a guy who made, you know, $2 million by betting on who the Pope was going to be. Like, there's all these things. I mean, I think it's certainly a sign of economic sickness, right?
Even the Pope, I don't care about that so much. But when you're talking
current
about,
events,
are we going to have ground troops in by this date, or is this guy going to be taken out? I mean, it's
like insider trading. At the very least, they shouldn't be allowed to use it.
Wow, wow. Scary stuff. I'll tell you, what a world we're in. You know, and I'm really scared because you say, oh, no congressperson would ever do that. Did you see some of the nuts who are running for Congress and are actually getting traction? We have, I don't know if I call him a communist or a Nazi. This guy, Graham Plattner in Maine, he had the Nazi tattoos. He said some really outrageous things. He is leading handily over Janet Mills, who's their present governor, to take on Susan Collins in Maine. This guy's going to win that primary. God forbid he wins. And let me tell you, don't automatically assume that these crazy Democrats can't win. They're overperforming by 20 points this year. It's going to be a bloodbath for Republicans. And then you got this guy, Abdul El Sayed in Michigan, who is cavorting with people who said 9/11 was America's fault. He's anti-Semitic. He hates America, this guy. This guy is probably going to win the primary in Michigan. I hope he does, because I think we'll win that seat with Rogers. But I don't know. Did you ever anticipate, John, and you're a younger guy, you see what's coming up in your generation, that it could be so sick that the Democratic Socialists are now controlling that party?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely saw it coming. The elements that hate civilization, not just America, but, you know, civilization in general, they've been active, at least since the 60s, if not even earlier. And now there's just the way that our system is set up. Like, for example, primaries. Who votes in the primaries? Only the most politically motivated and politically involved people. And what that means, oftentimes, is not a sensible moderate. The people who vote in it's people who think it's life and death. And
that's where the money flows from.
If you want to get the nomination, what do? You appeal to the people who are voting in the primaries, which is, on either side, the people who are showing up, which are the people furthest to the fringes. So it doesn't surprise me at all that the Democratic strategy and the platform is turning into what it's turning into.
Well, you got to
welcoming these people in.
You got to hope in the general it's going to moderate, but
that hasn't been true.
Yeah, these Democrats are overperforming so much. Republicans just won that Georgia seat, but barely. That was a seat where, Trump was winning by 20-something points. So
I think part of the problem with the Republicans, like the candidates they're fielding, just they don't make a lot of sense. It's like they're trying to step on the toes of Democrat policy people. Like, oh, look at how sensible and normal, or like, oh, look at how, oh, isn't it weird? I'm a Jamaican Republican. And, it's like they're not really appealing to the base of voters that they should be appealing to in the places that they're putting these people in. And then the Democrat, which presents as a regular person, will get in and vote like Mao.
Yeah. That's a Spamberger, Miss Moderate, who shows her true colors. She really is a lefty. But to show how crazy left the Democratic Party is, just look at Gavin Newsom's wife. This woman has been on a tear the last month trying to get as much oxygen out of the room as possible. Her latest, I don't know if you saw this one, John Rainey. She went to a prison and is sitting there having a dialogue on some podcast at the prison. And she's talking to the prisoners and saying, I get you. Just like, remember, Gavin Newsom said to a black audience,
oh my goodness,
I'm just like you. I failed. I had a 970 SAT score. I'm not too bright.
I can't read.
How racist that was. But she's there trying to pander to this prisoner population, saying, I'm just like you. And it's a very sad event that happened in early life. She was 6 or 7 years old, and she did something while playing with her sister, accidentally killed her sister. It's heartbreaking. Her sister was like a year or two younger or older. And but that's not the lousy part. You have sympathy for her for that. She tells these inmates, I'm kind of just like you. Why wasn't I in prison for that? Why are you in prison for what you did? Now, yours was an accident? So then she turns around and says, well, most of you people, or a lot of you people, you were probably accidents too. You were just exploited by this system. This is the mindset of the people who we're now putting into office. This is probably what Gavin is thinking too. This is critical race theory. It's not your fault that you were a rapist, a pedophile, and a murderer. It was the system's fault.
Yeah.
It was Whitey's fault.
There's that famous quote, we do not punish horse thieves for stealing horses. We punish horse thieves so that horses may not be stolen.
Yeah, the deterrent effect. Right?
Yeah, and it's like that principle is something that we've completely forgotten because the thoroughly debunked blank slate theory, the blank slate theory is like, oh, well, if you are a certain way, it's because of everybody else and not because of you. It's because of society. There's nothing, you have no agency. And so if you were just taught correctly, if you were just reformed, you could be different because everybody's basically the same from the moment of birth, which is not true and has been thoroughly debunked over the years. But people are just so attached to that theory because it sounds nice, wouldn't that be swell?
But when you have violent offenders who have a rap sheet, with 30 prior arrests, it's like, at what point do you say everybody deserves a second chance, maybe a third, but 30? Come on.
In any given city, if you arrest like the 500 most criminal people, or if you arrest anybody after their third offense and they don't let them out, like your third strike, you're out.
What happened in the 90s? Crime plummeted because you put the recidivists away.
It happened in El Salvador. Nayib Bukele, he locked up all those people who deserved to be locked up. And it became safer than our country.
And we had fixed the problems in New York, and then would the people say, hey, let's put a socialist in there like de Blasio and Mandami, and we'll reverse it again and go back to the bad old days. I got 3 minutes. I want to tell the people out there, there's a new website out there called Students and Taxpayers First. Check it out, studentsandtaxpayersfirst.com. On the school board level, you would be amazed, folks, at how our kids are being indoctrinated by the woke critical race theory and DEI that is permeating our schools. There's pornography in our schools, and don't think I'm exaggerating. It's absolutely true. The books that are accessible to our kids, they're disgusting. The standards have been lowered, and we're trying to do something about it through the Students and Taxpayers First, so that the lazy voter out there in a school board election where they're not partisan, you can't vote for a party, you don't know who these people are. Many of the candidates are bought off by the teachers' unions. We're going to present a website where you can find candidates who are not beholden to the unions, who are not beholden to the woke agenda, who believe in your values and want to keep Long Island and New York affordable. It's Students and Taxpayers First. Check it out. We think you'll be very, very impressed by it. All right, we got a minute to go here. What do you think of Long Island's own Lee Zeldin, John?
Oh, yeah. I used to work for him.
As being a possible contender to take over long-term as our Attorney General now that Pam Bondi has been removed?
I'd love to see some Long Island representation. You know, I used to be an intern for him once upon a time. You know, when I was an undergrad, and you know, I used to present awards on his behalf. You know, I even sent him an email recently to try to get an interview from him. Long shot. I'm like, remember me? You know,
right.
Who knows? But.
Well, I'll tell you. On one hand, I'd like him to take it as an American, but as a friend, I would say don't take it, because you talk about having a target on your head when you're in that position. But what I like about Lee is he's smart, he's unflappable, he'll go in front of a hostile committee and just not be phased at all. He'll give it right back, but in a gentlemanly way. But most importantly, what he did in EPA, by not flinching to the New York Times crowd or the liberal media out there, said, this is wrong, all of the grifting that was taking place with Biden and Stacey Abrams and all of these climate zealots. We're going to go with realistic science and not this fake garbage that's just a bunch of money-making operations. He stood his ground, and if he could do that as Attorney General, it would be great. John Rainey, thanks for joining us again on I almost said the America First Warehouse podcast. That's with our friend, that's with our other friends. This is the On the Right Side podcast. We see you every week, Wednesday, 2 o'clock. Steve Levy and David Zaire. Thank you, John Rainey, for joining us this week. We'll see you next week, folks.
See you.
Okay, there you go.
All right. It was my pleasure. I was only 3 minutes late. I really cut down on that, but I was...
Warehouse, a beacon for all to see, a symbol of hope, a symbol.